All right. Hey, everybody. It is Dave from Gravity WIz. I'm also joined today by Cole, our marketing wizard, and Clay, our CTO. So lots of good Gravity experience on the call. Looks like we still got some people rolling in, but we only have 45 minutes. And there is a ton that we want to go over, including some time for open Q&A. So I'm just going to jump on into this. Welcome. These are still very new to us, so be patient with us, but we're also super hungry for feedback. Let us know how we can make these sessions more valuable to you. And if there's any kind of polish you'd like to see, we're absolutely open to that as well. Overall, our vibe is to kind of keep it casual. Again, that's why we went with the whole idea of like a workshop. We just want to work with you guys, do some really cool stuff together, and show you what you can do with Gravity perks and Gravity forms. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Oh, I also wanted to mention, because I'm going to be moving so quickly, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to leave them in the chat, and Cole will call them out when he thinks it's like a good break in the presentation. All right, let's share the screen and get going. Okay, so we just released File Renamer maybe a month and a half ago. Some history around this one, it's pretty cool. It is a perk that started its life as a snippet a long time ago. I think about 8 years, in fact. And that's one of the things that we like to do is we just like to put out free resources and just to fill the need, you know, see a hole, fill a hole kind of idea. And as they, you know, become more robust and as we see opportunities to add premium features, then oftentimes we will take that and convert it into a perk. And that's exactly what's happened here. So yeah, 8 years later, this one finally completed its journey into perkdom. So what are some of the differences between, actually, before we get into the differences between the snippet version and the perk version, first, I just want to kind of give you like an overall understanding of what File Renamer can do. So I have a simple form here set up. It has a file upload field enabled. And under perks, you'll see I also have the Enable File Upload Pro option enabled. This is our File Upload Pro perk. I thought this was just a good opportunity to show you how much prettier you can make your file upload fields, as well as a ton of additional functionality, sorting, cropping, and that's kind of just the beginning of it. So with that said, the feature that we're here to really kind of look at, though, is the File Renamer feature, and that is all powered through this file name template. So once you're in here, you can go in and select the merge tag selector. And a lot of people actually want to somehow preserve the original file name. And sometimes they just want to add like a prefix to it. Sometimes it's a static value, you know, like, hey, this is our company. We want to make sure that all of the files that are uploaded in this form get prefixed with our company name, or maybe even the form title, for example. In that case, you could go here and say something like, I think the form title is available. There we go. So you could append the form title to this file name. Well, prepend in this case. Alternately, you could again put that at the end so it would get attached that way. In this case, let's see, what do we want to do? Let's add a name field. And we are going to add the user's name. We're going to prepend it. And we're going to do first and last. We're going to back up a little bit. And then that's interesting. It looks like Gravity Form doesn't add in it. So let's just save the form and refresh so we can get that merge tag to show up. All right, so now we're going to go back to our file upload field. We're going to go to perks. And we're going to go back to our file name template. And we are going to now see that the name field is present. I would have expected that to work, to be honest with you. I think there might be something on my end that is conflicting. That meaning that I would expect that to show up automatically when you add the field. So there we go. We have our file, the original file name, and we're going to have the first name and then the last name. And let's save the form and preview. And so we'll put my name in there. We'll select a couple files here. We'll go to open. And just for fun, I just want to show you like how you could sort with File Rename or File Upload Pro. And we'll go ahead and submit this. And so you can see the original file name has been preserved, and then it appended my first and last name. So pretty cool. So what else can you do with File Renamer? A big feature is file organization. So this kind of gives you context for the file, especially when you're not going to be keeping these files locally. But let's just say you are keeping these files locally and you want to better organize them on your file system. So one of the cool things, let's just simplify this, get rid of all that. You can actually create subfolders with the file name template. So in this case, let's say we want to put all of our files in a entry ID specific folder. So we just do entry ID / and that's what tells it, hey, this is going to be a folder, not part of the actual file name. And then we can save. So now if we refresh our preview, we'll actually do the hard refresh there. We actually don't need to enter a name now because we're not using that anymore. And we'll load those same 3 files in. And we're going to submit. And now you're not going to see any difference because, again, we didn't tweak the file name in this case. But when we go to look at the folder, you're going to see that it's in the default folder that it would be in, which is all of this beforehand. But then this is the entry ID specific folder. So how is this relevant? How does this help you? Well, the cool thing is that it solves a lot of deduplication issues, for one. You can preserve that file name without ever having to actually tweak the file name. So for example, let's upload those same 3 files again. And we're going to submit. You're going to see that the exact same file names. We're going to click on that same photo, except for you're going to see that now it's in folder 1353, which is the entry ID. And that you can see that's in 1352. So this is a great way to kind of be able to preserve those file names without having to append, the nasty like 1, 2, 3 to it. It keeps it consistent. Another way you can differentiate files is by our incrementer. So this is useful when you actually want to keep track of the order the file was uploaded in a given field. So this incrementer merge tag is always specific to the file upload field that it currently is in. And although I just manually type that in, it's also available by typing in incrementer, and you can copy it and it will or select that and it will automatically insert it. So now I'm just going to save this same form. We're going to preview. And we're going to upload, again, those same 3 files. And when we submit this form, you're going to see that each one has a 1, 2, or 3. So let's go back one more time, and we're just going to change the order of those files. So now instead of this being Lego Land Speeder 3, it should be Lego Land Speeder 1. You can see how that will work. All right. Seeing if there's anything else juicy there. Oh, yes. One thing that's really cool about File Renamer is that it works with, you can customize the file upload path with Gravity Form's GForm upload path filter. So I actually have an example of that already in place here. I'm just going to uncomment it. So in some cases, you want to get really specific about where you want your files on your file system. And with this filter, you can do that. And again, this is core Gravity Forms functionality. And so in this case, I'm going to put it in the same content directory, but instead of the very long, let's look at one of these really quick. Instead of, you see here, it's like uploads, Gravity Forms, random string, and then it does it by date. You could do something like this, where it's just going to be like secret path. And then when we preview this again, and again, we'll just do these same 3 files and submit that. When we click on that, you're going to see that the file upload path has changed. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. It took a little work to get that to work together. So I definitely wanted to highlight that on this call. So the third thing I wanted to mention of the three highlights that I'm kind of going over with file renamer is the integration that exists. So not only does it work with File Upload Pro, as I've shown you here, it also works with unique ID, which actually, let's demo that really quick. So with unique ID, you can just add a unique ID field to your form. And let's say that we want to do a sequential unique ID. And if there's any other settings, we'll leave the starting number at its default and not modify. Yeah, I think we'll just leave it as is. So this will generate a sequential unique ID. Every submission gets its own ID that is unique to this field on this form. So we can actually use that unique ID in this folder. So for example, let's say you're a little worried about exposing the entry ID. You're like, I don't want people to know the entry ID and they might be able to see it from the path. Well, in this case, you could, and let's see if we run into that annoying issue again. We did, bummer. So we're just gonna save the form and refresh the page so that way this unique ID field shows up. Awesome. And so now we're going to go in here. We're going to see that our unique ID field is there. So now we're going to put these, rather than putting them into a folder based on the entry ID, we're going to put them into a folder based on the unique ID that has been generated for this submission. Awesome. So let's do those same three files again. And submit. And we'll click on one of these. First of all, you can see that the unique ID has been generated, and you can see that it's in that unique ID folder, and the image has also been renamed. Now I'm just going to actually refresh this page to submit the form again. So if you do that kind of submission, I forgot that the multi-file upload field does not preserve the files. You actually have to go back and resubmit them again. So we'll do that again, and now you're going to see that the unique ID is now at 3. And if we click on one of these images, you'll see that the path is now set to 3 as well. So yeah, pretty cool. So that is kind of, again, 3 just highlights of what file renamer can do. I also wanted to mention that it works with all core file upload field types, including the post image field. If there's other third-party image field types that you would like support for, definitely drop a line in support. We'd love to take a look. Okay.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Just before you move on here, there's a few questions in the chat.
Let's hear them.
Notably, Ken Kramer is curious if using file uploads, so File Upload Pro and File Renamer, if it's possible to get some kind of integration with Google Drive. And I'm also seeing Dropbox by Jennifer.
So I believe Dropbox works already. Google Drive, I don't think Gravity Forms has a core add-on for that. But if there's a third-party add-on in the ecosystem, yeah, definitely submit it in support so we can take a look and see what would be required to integrate with it. The way that that file renamer works, as we kind of try to do with all of our perks, is we try to do it as closely as possible to like the native functionality. So a lot of times that means making the renamed file available as early as possible in the submission process. So what that means is that a lot of times this is just going to work with other plugins, even though we may not have deliberately integrated with them. You'll find that it will just work because of just that trying to make sure it's available as early as possible. So yeah, any specific integrations, please submit a support ticket and we'll be happy to look into it if you have any issues. Otherwise, I would just assume that it works.
Yeah, another great integration there is GP Media Library, of course. And since that's going to go to the WordPress Media Library, it'll work with plugins such as Delicious Brains' WP Offload Media. So we can go to S3, DigitalOcean, Spaces, GCS, and so on.
Heck yeah.
But since you're using the WordPress Media Library at that point, there's going to be a plethora of options.
Yeah. Any other questions related to file renamer?
I think you're all good.
Awesome. Actually, we're not technically going to move on from file renaming yet, which means I need to go a little faster because we have a whole awesome section on mastering the map field that I want to make sure we have time for. So what are the differences between the snippet version and the perk version? The big one is the UI. The perk version, you had to configure this template. You had to type all these merge tags out by hand, copy them from the editor, and put them in your functions.php file or wherever you install PHP snippets. So this obviously is just a huge quality of life improvement for interacting with this functionality. The other thing is, which I already actually ended up demonstrating as part of my highlight reel there, is support for that incrementer, the ability to increment files based on the field that they are being uploaded in. That was a fairly often requested feature of the snippet version that we were able to add to the perk version. And then the last thing is that we added this filter, and I'm going to copy some of these examples over to my code here. So this example here, this will, as you saw in the situation where I had the name field, which I will now add back. Oh man, I should have added it to the template first, but I just realized that it won't matter. So let's just get back into the name here. We're going to put that first name, last name, and then again, we're going to insert the original file name up at the top. All right, we're going to save this form. We're going to preview it. So in the original example, when I did this, you saw that the name was capitalized. So by default, file renamer tries to leave the file name as intact as possible and all the data as intact. So it just tries to do as little manipulation as possible just to get it into a sanitized file name format. So in this case, with this filter in place, it's just going to it's going to make everything lowercase, which may be a desirable outcome for you, depending again on your needs. So this is just one of the cool things you can do with the filter. You can apply these like global changes. Another example here is applying a global template. I won't actually submit this one, but just so you guys can kind of see this in action here. So with this template or with this filter, rather than going into each field individually and configuring that file name template, you can actually use this filter and set a template for all forms and all fields that you want to apply to. And that's just like a great way to save a ton of time. If you know that there's a specific format or a specific destination that you want to put your files in, you can just apply this globally with, again, this is just like a few lines of code here. And as always, if you have any questions about these kinds of snippets, we love to help out. So reach out to support. Okay, so let's move on. Unless there's any other questions for that, let's move on to the map field. So address autocomplete is a fairly new perk here. Clay, do you remember when we released the address autocomplete?
Ooh, put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to consult the website for that one.
Yeah, while Clay consults, we'll keep digging in here. So the idea is that you have an address field, and as you enter numbers or letters into the address, Google wields its magic power and reveals a list of addresses that are in close proximity to you, typically. That might be the address you're looking for. So that's the premise. And as you can see from this demo that I've already set up, we later on introduced this map field. And this map field is linked to this address field. And once you have selected an address, it will put a marker on the map wherever that address is. So this map field is kind of just, again, the way that we do things here, we just like to get stuff in your hands and then you tell us exactly what you want to do with it. And there has been a lot of feedback on the map field and it's been really exciting. So I kind of want to give you a demo. This is going to be definitely code heavy. But it kind of is going to help us pave the way for the features that you actually want to see us polish and then incorporate into the perk. And then on the other side of it, it's just some really cool stuff you can do with the map field. So I definitely think there's a ton of value here. So I just showed you the basic version where you enter address and it goes into your map field. Let's head over to the form settings. And I have our custom JavaScript plugin already active. And the custom JavaScript plugin, if you're not familiar with it, it just makes working with JavaScript and Gravity forms a lot easier, particularly when you just have little snippets. You're just trying to tweak a little bit of functionality here or there. It outputs it at the right time, in the right place, so you don't have to worry about all of that. And then it also provides this super helpful gform form ID constant that will be replaced when the code is rendered. And that way, honestly, we added it in a large part for us so that when we were writing snippets, we didn't have, it was one less thing that you would have to tweak when you copied and pasted the snippet into your custom code setting, because it will, again, automatically update to whatever form you have copied it into. So looking into the things that you can kind of extend the map field to do right now, one of the big ones is info windows. Looking back over here at the form view, this is nice. It kind of shows you something, which is good. But one of the first bits of feedback we got was, hey, like, I kind of want to label it somehow. I want to let people know what this is or provide additional instructions, maybe. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that with this next code example. So this is going to add what Google calls an info window. So I'm just going to copy and paste this code in. You can see here, this is the bit that you probably want to customize. And what it does is it sets a little content that's going to be displayed right above the marker. So let's go ahead and save this and then see what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to enter in another address. And boom, you see the map is zoomed in on that location. And it has our content there. It says, hey, delivery location, your package will be delivered by October 31st. A signature is required. So it's a great way to confirm that, hey, like, you did enter the right address, right? And then also a great way to kind of give them that additional information, just to kind of reiterate, like, hey, you need to be home for this, or here's the timeline that it's going to be coming through. So yeah, just a really cool way to do a little more with the map field, specifically the marker. So next up is one that we actually had a customer came through and just said, hey, I found this site called Snazzy Maps. Let's see, I'll pull it up here so everyone can see. And so Snazzy Maps is a repository of styles for your Google Maps. So you can scroll down here and see all these different options. So it's pretty cool. You can find one that you think might fit your branding a little bit better, or just even if you have like a specific form that could benefit from a customized style. It's also a great starting point if you like, oh, I want to tweak some of the colors here, and this one is pretty close to what I want. You can use it as a starting point and then tweak it yourself to any style that you want. So in this case, I already have one of these styles selected, but let me actually go in and just show you what it looks like. So I think we're going to do the Lost in the Desert look. So this is all the content here. You go down and click expand code. I didn't see if there's a way to copy this a little easier, but it looks like when you click on it, it automatically selects it. So then you can just copy it. In our case, I actually forgot to go and grab the rest of the code snippet that we have for this, which again, I'm going to bring over here so you can see. This is in our snippet library. So this, it looks pretty beefy, but it's actually really simple, because everything from line 22 down to line 200 is just an array of styles. So you don't actually need to understand it or know what it is to use this. You're just going to replace this variable with whatever styles you want. So in this case, let me go ahead and copy these styles. I'm going to copy this whole snippet. I'm going to go to the form settings, and I'm going to paste this in here. All right, awesome. I'm going to save those settings, and I'm going to preview the form again. So you can already see that the styles have been applied. You can zoom out to kind of get a better idea of what it looks like. Now, let's just say that we wanted to get a different style. So we go back here. And I am really partial to this Assassin's Creed. I've never played it, but it just looks cool. So let's expand the code. It didn't do that fancy thing where it selected it all for me that time, but easy enough. So I've copied that. I'm gonna go ahead and close this. And we're gonna go down here. And this is where I said, you don't line 22 all the way down. We don't actually care what it says. We're just gonna paste in the new style. We're gonna save the settings. We're gonna go back to the form preview. We're gonna refresh and boom. We've got the new Assassin's Creed map style here. And yeah, it just looks pretty cool. So let's take a quick look. Let's select an address to see what it looks like with that on there. There you go. So yeah, that's the that is how you do the styles with snazzy maps. And again, that snippet is in our snippet library. So it's just go in there and grab it. All right. Last thing I wanted to show with mastering the map field here is, this is such a cool one. This was actually submitted as a question by Ty. Thank you, Ty, for that. He asked if it was possible to show multiple markers as a way to show like store locations, for example, in your form. And of course, we could not figure it out. We had to. Thank you, Matt, one of our developer wizards here at Gravity WIz, for doing a deep dive into this. I've tweaked his example just a little bit. What we're going to do here is I have the coordinates for Paris, London, and Rome. And what we're going to do in this case is that even though in this use case, we don't really care about the address. We're just trying to show them like our store locations within the context of the form. So we're actually going to go into this address field. We're going to go to advanced and we're going to hide it just so that it doesn't create any confusion for the user. So now we refresh and you can see that all of our locations have been marked with a marker here. And yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it, except there's more. So I just got so inspired by this as I was working with it that I wanted to just kind of push it a little further. And I was like, you know, this is cool to show like kind of like this global sense. I was like, what does this look like locally? What can you do? And I happen to live in an area that is just, it's insane how many golf courses we have around here. And I was just like, you know what? I want to map some of them, the ones that are closest to my house, on a map. And so I did. So we scroll up here, we can see I tweaked the snippet a little bit because I also wanted to give this a label. And then the other tweak I made to this one, which is kind of fun, is I've provided an icon as well. So let's go ahead and save the settings and preview this one. Awesome. So I live somewhere around here. And you can see that now I have marked a bunch of different golf courses that are in our area. And as you can see, and I can't help but fix it, there is in my testing, I was trying to do something, trying to see if it would support HTML. It doesn't, unfortunately. So we'll keep it nice and simple. You can see how easy it is though to customize this. Just go to the string, modify it, refresh, and there you go. All of our golf courses marked with a cute little icon and labeled based on the name of the club. So yeah, just some of the things that you can do with the map field. Any questions on this?
I think you're all good.
Awesome. And again, I just wanted to reiterate, one of the reasons that we love doing snippets for stuff like this is it's just like a low cost way for us to explore the possibilities and give you all a chance to interact with it too. More often than not, we go through, as you can see, even with the file renamer, again, that started off as a snippet, and over the course of 8 years, it got enhanced. We move a lot quicker than that now. So if a feature is popular and you want to see it in core, the best thing that you can do is implement the snippet version in a real world use case, share that with us. and tell us what limitations you run into. We will almost always try to, find a way to work around those limitations to get you to the finished result. And then based on that work, we're able to kind of explore that feature and develop a really robust feature that can be moved into core. So yeah. All right. We got through a lot of content so far in 30 minutes. I'm impressed. It's time for the open Q&A. I figured I'm going to go ahead and tackle the pre-submitted questions first. And I already know in advance that there were some questions that were just too big for me to answer in this format. And so if your pre-submitted question is not answered right now, don't worry. We'll definitely be responding in full to make sure you get an answer. So first question is from Chris Boom Boom Hager of RG fame. He wanted to know if snacks will be served. Yes, Chris Boom Boom Hager. We've cast a spell to replenish your fridge and pantry, so enjoy all the cookies. Next up, Robert Summers asked, could there ever be a way for Populate Anything to pull in an API feed to populate a dropdown or honestly any choice-based field? The short answer is yeah, heck yeah. We actually have some snippets already in existence. I actually wish I had the forethought to have pulled those up already. Oh, and of course, Clay has me covered. Let me copy this link here and share it with you guys. And we'll make sure to share all the resources that we shared. I actually have a whole page of this agenda we use Notion for our project management, and we can share that publicly. So we will do so after the call. So everything that we've discussed, all the snippets, all the code examples, they'll be available to you. So this is the first snippet. This works with JSON APIs. You can basically copy and paste this into your themes functions.php file, or again, wherever you include PHP. Clay, refresh my memory. There is some configuration. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's some configuration required where you essentially need to provide the JSON that you want. Beyond that, Clay, is there any other configuration required?
Yeah, you'll have to customize the properties for this one.
Here.
And the main limitation with this snippet is this just looks at a response. It's essentially providing every IATA code for for airports around the world. It's on GitHub repository. There's no query parameters or anything like that to filter or search by. So we actually have another snippet that needs to be moved to the snippet library, interestingly enough, that was a result of adapting this snippet for another customer who had an actual API and needed to pull up invoices from a particular sales rep. So we made a way to pass values from other fields as query parameters for that API. So it turned out pretty cool. They both require a bit of customization, but I think they're good starting points.
Yeah, definitely strong starting points. And again, it's going to ring the bell again. These are things that we love to help you figure out. So if you want to integrate with an API, reach out to us. We'll share this with you. Let us know how far along you get. If you hit any roadblocks, I mean, we want to make it as easy to use as possible. So don't be afraid to jump in because we'll be there to help you along the way. All right. But also, I just want to say, like, this is definitely a feature that we want to move into core. The big roadblock really right now is just looking for the right opportunity to prioritize it. There's so many things that we want to do. It's tough to prioritize them all, and some really awesome features like this get pushed down, even though the desire is there. So again, this is another situation where if you just keep telling us that you want something, we will do it. Again and again, we have proven that to be true. All right. Andres Reyes asked, do you make custom extensions for Gravity forms? And as a follow-up to that, do you make development advisories? I read that as like just consultations. So answering the question, do we make custom extensions for Gravity Forms? We used to. That is actually the origin of Gravity Perks. I was doing a ton of freelance work on the side when I worked at Gravity Forms, and eventually there's so much overlap in the functionality. I realized that there were actually distinct products that could be made here. But as the company has matured, it's just custom development's too hard to manage alongside our business goals. We have to have a roadmap, and then you have to stick to the roadmap. Otherwise, you get 100 projects to the 90% mark, and then you never get them across the finish line. So we made that very tough decision a long time ago to no longer do custom work like that. But that said, again, if it's a simple feature, a lot of times we will try to knock it out for you within the context of support requirements there, though it does need to be part of the Gravity Perks suite. If it's something completely unrelated to Gravity Perks, and we're probably not going to be able to be that helpful. But even then, we'll at least try to point you in the right direction. So please do, again, reach out and let us know what you have in mind, and we'll let you know if it's something that we can help with and how much we can help. All right. Next question is from Jordan Dick. How do you keep providing more value than I can keep up with? It's a great question. And we are asking ourselves that all the time. I don't know how many of you are subscribed to get our weekly newsletter, but we were just talking this week. We spent a lot of time prepping for this wizarding workshop, and the question came up, like, should we skip the weekly this week so we have more time to prepare for the workshop? And we thought about it, but every time that we skip a week of the weekly, there's just so much content that we got done that week that we can't, we lose that opportunity to share it, because the next week's going to come and we're going to fill that with stuff that we want to share. So I think the way that we've been able to do that is by just embracing support. I would say that almost like we're a support first company, even though we're a product company. We love customer feedback, and we really like to react quickly to customer feedback. So that's why, you've heard me, you're probably sick of hearing me say it, but contact support, and not in the annoying way, like, hey, I don't want to deal with it in this one context, so go to support so we can bury it. No, like, we want you to go to support because that's very likely the best resolution for you is going to happen in support. Yeah, a lot of our new features come through from support. And even our new perks oftentimes are, come from support requests, people wanting to do stuff that we couldn't do before. So yeah, I think that being a support first company is how we are able to produce so much value. Obviously, I'd be horribly remiss to not also add to that we have an awesome team of wizards that get up every day and man the queue. It's an all hands on deck company. So yeah, we love support. All right, that is it for pre-submitted questions. Any other questions that have come up during the call, or any? It's open Q&A. If you have a question, just ask it.
Yeah, I have one from Rob Davis here that Clay has partially tackled already, but maybe you have some thoughts to share.
Hit me.
Basically, just any thoughts on improving the performance of populate anything queries that pull from Gravity Forms entries. So his comment is the speed is considerably slower for that type of query versus user data, for example.
Yeah, ultimately, so I'm not going to say that there's no room for improvement, but it's a tricky one. I'm sure Clay has already touched on some of the intricacies there, but essentially when you're querying for that data, it has to load so much data just to do what populate anything needs to do to actually filter it down. Clay, I don't know what you had already said on this. Anything to add to that?
I just mentioned the upcoming changes, that GPPA 2.0 is coming soon, simply put, and a new perk that will accommodate it. But as far as the technical reasons go, with the entries, we actually load the entire entry, which, like David said, that's going to create more queries on the back end and more than what you need. So if you find out that you're loading a lot of entries, one way to actually work around this is just to go straight to the source, switch to the database object type. And if you just need a little bit of data, you can find that using the database object type. But that said, we do have some performance optimizations and code cleanup coming in GPPA 2.0, and then a new perk that is going to work with it to make it so you can have a select field and actually search for results that get paginated. So think when you go to GitHub and you type in someone's username, they're not loading every or however many millions of users they have and putting that in the select. It's going to be an Ajax search. We're going to be doing the same thing and making that a possibility. So it can drastically speed up the time that it takes for that initial form load and then any subsequent searches. So we're incredibly excited for it. It's been a long time coming.
Heck yeah. That one's going to be awesome. Well, fantastic. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask. I'll stick around till 1:45, but honestly, I'm glad that we were able to cram so much in so quickly. Yeah, if not, if you're good, then
I do have one from Jason, who I think is looking to stir the pot a bit, but he's curious what your thoughts are on Gravity Flow being purchased by Gravity Forms.
I think it's awesome. You know, I mean, just speaking plainly, as a business owner, it's always tough when deciding how much effort to invest in supporting another third-party plugin. And Gravity Flow is a very complex plugin. And there, you know, we had to make a lot of tough decisions about, okay, like how much effort can we invest in supporting Gravity Flow? Now that it's owned by Gravity Forms, the mothership, you know, the giver of all things good, it simplifies that business decision tremendously. Yeah. So Jason, I see that you said more towards how it will play with perks. I'm curious, like, could you elaborate on that? Are there any limitations right now that you've run into that you feel are opportunities to make them integrate more tightly? And while Jason might be typing his response, I will speak to what Rob Davis just said, that, yeah, Jamie and Sobrato are awesome. Super, super awesome. And we got really, really lucky, and we were actually able to bring on Seth from Gravity Flow, and he's now a wizard as part of that whole process of them getting bought out. So now we actually have an in-house Gravity Flow expert at Gravity WIz, which we're super excited about. And Seth's just been an awesome, awesome addition to the team. Yeah, Jason, I'm just not sure, man. Not super familiar with. Yeah, totally understand. I know when I'm talking and you're typing, it makes it tricky. I am not familiar with kind of like I guess the situation with you're saying they won't talk about how to purchase and everything. My understanding is that Gravity Flow will always be a separate add-on and not ever part of like a Gravity Perks or Gravity Forms license. So if you need workflow support, I would definitely recommend picking up Gravity Flow. And then on our end, we will definitely do our best to, you know, support any kind of integrations with Gravity Perks with it. And I see there was Rob Davis. There was an auto save and continue question.
Yeah, I got it here. So is there a way to automatically purge saved entries using automatic save and continue once the form is submitted?
So you're saying like after a token has been used and that token has then been, that submission has then been submitted, the token, like that data like sticks around. Is that what you're saying, Rob? Yeah. No, that's a great call. I mean, it doesn't sound very difficult. The token is, I believe, saved in the submission data. So if you know what token it was that loaded the data and you know that that has now been used to submit a form, it should be negligible to remove it. So yeah, cool. Well, it's 1:45. I'm gonna go ahead and call it. All right, Cole. Any closing notes about like the incoming survey or anything about that?
Yeah, we'll be sending just a follow-up survey probably in the next 20 minutes. If you could share your thoughts with us. Yeah, any feedback or areas for improvement, just let us know.
Awesome, everyone. Hey, thanks for coming. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to come and attend this. Yeah, we just love sharing what we're doing, and it's exciting to us that anyone's interested. So I will look forward to the next session. All right, take it easy, everybody.